Welcome to Herby at Heart, where herbalism grows in the roots of our hearts, our intrinsic journey, where we dwell on the deep and expand on the narrow. As always, staying your favorite herbalist Tash at Avant-Garde Life, and me, Power Plants Berlin. One plant, one show, featuring an interview with someone we believe embodies a part of the spirit. But today is gonna be a different episode than it usually is, because today we are not together. Today we are separated from each other. And to celebrate this separation, we thought we have to do something else. Tash is in Australia at the moment, in the very south of Australia, as you can tell. While I'm in the deepest winter of Berlin and just moving to a new apartment, we decided let's not go crazy on one plant for 1 month because that would just be madness for our lives. And we kind of bringing a different topic to this episode today. Aren't we, Tash?
Yes, we are. Hello, hello. So, as you know, each month we commit to working with the one plant or a fungi, and we test it and we observe it of how it works in our systems. And today we thought we would talk about this, how we work, the pros and cons, how what it does to us, and how we might even throw in how you could play around with plants as well. Let's see where the conversation goes. We will be having the pleasure also of interviewing Olivia Saywood, who will share her own personal experience around this theme and how she uses it also in her own work. So, as we've been doing quite a lot of, or the last fungi that we did microdosing with it. So, we were testing very small amounts of it. We thought we would talk a little bit about herbal experimentations. And as we all know, microdosing has become a huge talked about thing, not just in wellness places, but also in places like startup culture and on socials. People seem to be doing it everywhere. And we just wanted to talk about, oh, there was a little birdie that went past. We just wanted to talk about how, yeah, our reflections on that and yeah, what our thoughts on that are and just share it with our community. So that's going to be us today.
Exactly.
And yeah, you got anything to say about that?
I got nothing to say about that. No,
Okay.
I got a lot of things to say about it, but that's not how we roll in this podcast because
No.
since it's airing on the radio and we still have the right to play uh, GEMA in Germany, GEMA, like loyalty right music, we are gonna do that. And today we're gonna start with a band that we actually got introduced to, at least I got introduced to it from one of our preview interviewees, Dr. Eileen Naomi Rusk. She chose one of her songs that she chose was from Rising Appalachia. I think it was Resilience at that time. That was the name of the song. And we're gonna choose a song that's called Medicine. Enjoy that.
Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that beautiful song. So, we're doing pretty freestyle today, talking about our experiences, how we work with plants, what we think the issues are there, what the advantages and disadvantages are. And yeah, how we're doing it with this show is we basically take a plant or a fungi and we prepare it in numerous different ways and then we experiment with it. And sometimes we don't even just experiment with one form of the plant, like not just a tincture or a tea or eating it dried or putting it into food. We do like to mix it up a little bit so we can see on numerous different levels of how the plant is working. With our last fungi that we were using, we were taking that in tincture form and we did a tincture preparation. We did a what's it called again?
So we actually
Ah,
we had a dried tincture percolation.
dried. Yeah,
We had a fresh tincture that we used for external application, and we had dried mushroom that we ingested.
that's right. Yes. Philip is right on the ball with that one, even though he's just woken up. Yeah, he's my savior. Yeah, so we tested that in like so we tested that in like all these different forms, and it is super fascinating how they work on the body when you're doing it in these different ways. And some herbs, particularly I find it with herbs, is you'll even be able to know what substances, like what's constituents in a herb when you drink it, particularly when you make a tea, for example, the really mucilaginous herbs. So you can already see what that herb's doing just by the flavors and the tastes. So it's a really, we personally think, and I think there are lots of people out there who are using plant matter to experiment. It's a really great way to learn about the plants, the fungi, how they're working on our systems, and what we can use them for. And a good way of doing it is you can record. So I'm a real fan of recording. So when I'm doing the testing, this is how I personally do it. I think me and Philip do it differently, is that I write the amount I've taken each day, and then I record what it's done to me that day. And I do that over, I don't do it every single day, but I try and do it in over, say, a week. I'll do it every day, and then I might forget for a few days just because of work. And, we're always we're very busy people as well. And then at the end of the month, I can see all my recordings and what I've recorded by hand, and what it's doing to the system, and what keeps on coming up over and over again. So I think it's it's a way that I reconnect or connect really deeply with plants by doing this, and also collecting. I think a lot of people forget about this, like actually going out and seeing how a plant in the environment it's sitting in and how it's growing, and maybe just not at one time of the year, but throughout the year, to see how it changes and in what environments it likes and how it feels and how it smells and how it tastes when it's still living. I think this is a really beautiful way. That's why preparing our own medicines we're huge fans of that. Yeah, they're just kind of ways I think that we work in the beginning stages with the herbs, that we can use them, or how we're doing it on the show, really. And sometimes you do it different than me, don't you, Philip?
I definitely do it differently. Yeah. I want to start with a little quote here, or maybe two little quotes by Paracelsus, because I was just talking on a seminar or like on a conference about signatures of plants and healing plants and how to use them. And Paracelsus is like this for the people who are not from Europe or don't have never heard about this person. Um, he is at that time, or like in our times, it would be like on the border of Swiss, Austria, person from the 1600 who was a really famous doctor who really like changed the medicine at that time and showed us a lot on how to working with plants, especially not just plants, but like minerals, metals, and all this kind of things. And he says, in keiner Weise wird eine Krankheit durch entgegengesetzte Mittel geheilt, sondern nur durch ihre ähnliche, which is a very interesting quote. Like, at no point disease will be cured through the differences using a different part, but only through a similar part. I'm gonna elaborate on that a little bit. And the other part that I want to start with now is like, wir müssen aber den Bereich der Dinge erweitern und wissen, dass die Welt und alles, was in ihrem Umkreis sehen, nur und greifen, nur die eine Hälfte der Welt ist. Was wir von nichts sehen, ist aber genauso viel an Gewicht, Wesen und Qualität. So, what he's saying that he's talking about that uh, only like the one part of the world that we actually see, that we smell, and those kind of things is that the part we is not just it's just the half of what we can understand. And at this point, I want to go back to what you said on like foraging and going out and collecting the stuff, because I think it's as you said, it's such an important part of the game and something that's completely yeah, yeah, undervalued,
Underestimated, I think.
underestimated. Yeah, that's the word.
Yeah,
Thank you. Yes.
sure. I'm always here for you,
Thanks, you're my
holding your hand.
savior. Yeah. Because the signature of the plants that we can see, and I'm talking about like color, I'm talking about where it's growing, who it's growing with, the smell, the character. Is it a 1 year plant? Is it a 2 year plant? How does it seed? Like what's the environment it grows in? How fast does it grow? What soil is it growing in? How does it taste when you eat it? Like all these kind of things that give us such a rich amount of knowledge of a plant, and that's only the half still that we can learn
Yeah.
to understand. Because how ancient folks and natives were doing it is like to communicate with the plants. And I think that's also the other important part that we are doing. We're sitting with plants. We're sitting with plants, we're meditating with plants. Tash, maybe one episode you're going to talk about your work with remedies, like flower remedies that you're doing.
Ah, yeah, the flower essences, how to work with them. Mm.
Exactly, because Tash is like
Yeah,
a
that's another way to work with them.
yes, that we're always doing, and she's an expert on like creating essences, and with that you're really like sitting with a plant and you understand it through the spirit, through the contact, through watching yourself, what is happening with your body. And I
Mm.
think to close this long circle that I'm talking now is that I that's the way I try to understand the plants. So I'm a lazy piece when it comes to recording. Um, I'm really
Are
not
you
structured
recording now?
well. I'm recording an episode, but I'm not good at recording all my notes and like collecting all that stuff. And like I do sometimes voice memos and I write things down, but it's all messy and all over the place and it's not structured. But what I do is like I sit with them, I try to feel them, I try to experience them, and like then remember and trust my body to know when it's the right time for these things to come up. Because if you get in touch with the energy of a plant or a remedy and you're seeing it with a patient or a client or feeling the same kind of energy, that's how you get in contact and you know, that's the plant that we're working with at the moment. And I think
Mm.
Tash knows exactly what you're talking about, what I'm talking
Yep.
about. But just for the audience, so there's a lot of different ways. There's a very scientific way, and I think it's a very important way to work with it, to understand the ingredients and the contents and the chemical compounds and what they're actually doing in the body, because we need to understand disease in order to cure it also. And at the same time, it's only like half of the game.
Yep.
And to really finish the cycle with the first quote I was doing, like with the similarity principle, that is kind of a homeopathical principle, healing similar diseases by similar approaches through nature, like stingy pain is healed with a stingy plant. It's a very simple
Mm.
one, for example. So if you have like a stingy infection in your bladder, you're gonna use something like the nettle because it's a stingy plant with that's working on the bladder and renal system. And that's why I always like to not just microdose about things, but to overdose things to understand how it feels to be poisoned by a certain compound. Because it teaches me really a lot on how I actually can use this kind of medicine in a lower dose. And this is something that is quite dangerous and probably stupid, but you got to be a little bit a crazy maniac to work in this field, or at least to research it.
I think people who work with herbs generally are a little bit loopy. We're a bit of a loopy community of people that like to push boundaries. And I think it's a good point you're saying about pushing it to the boundaries. Of course, as we always say on the show, that we need to be careful that if, we're also professionals in our field, we know what plants we can't do that with, where there's a danger zone. And so it's really interesting to do it, but it's not always fun. Actually, a lot of the time when you do push it to the boundaries, it isn't fun.
No.
And it takes us to very pushes our inner boundaries as well as our outer boundaries and our physical boundaries, and sometimes to a point where it's a bit much. If you listen to our shiitake episode, you'll hear all about that, how that pushed us quite a lot to our boundaries.
Yeah,
And
maybe for our audience, a fairly safe way to almost induce any plant is to smudge it. And this is so underestimated. You can even smoke it, but then it directly also goes inside you. We can smudge it
yeah,
and experience the energy in the room. And that's even possible with very poisonous plants. You have to be careful with collecting and get to know like you're able to touch it and all these kind of things. But smudging is a very powerful way to understand like how certain plants are working. So
yeah,
if you like curious about doing something like that, that's always a safe way to start the journey.
Yeah, especially if you're I mean, always be again, we always say this in every episode, make sure you're 200%. I've written down just a few advantages and disadvantages that I'm just going to read out and we can
Mhm.
expand on them. We don't have
Yeah.
we're doing a much shorter episode in a way today. So we've got our interviewee coming in a minute, but just so you have a bit of an idea of what to be aware of, I think. And I think some of you can expand also on this, Philip, but I think some of the advantages of like microdosing is it's supporting, illnesses when others are not working, like when other medicines for people
Mm.
are not working, or they're also using it with medications, and some people they're having real struggles with a lot of stuff, and the microdosing is really helping them with the mushrooms.
Yeah.
Particularly people are microdosing with mushrooms at the moment in especially on socials and that, or LSD.
Yeah.
And some people really, it saves their life to do it. So, and I look at that as an advantage. It'll really take you into places that you normally can't reach, even on a very, very gentle level. It doesn't. So we're always talking about that you're not feeling the drug. It's not like you're getting high off it, but it can really take you into these spaces that I think can be a little bit more difficult to reach in your everyday life, which
Mhm.
I quite like about it.
Yeah.
And when we're talking about herb testing, that deepening the connections with the plants and fungi. So it's both the microdosing and the testing of herbs. You can really dwell deeply with that plant, like Philip was talking about, creating these connections with them that you may not, well, with the spirit of the plant that you may not normally have access to. Helps us understand how a plant works. And it's great for practitioners. Anyone who's working with herbs, I really believe that you should be out there. This is my personal opinion. People may disagree with me, but I think if you're going to treat people, you should be out there testing the plants a little bit yourself, ingesting them, and also being out there and working with them, because you're going to have a much deeper context, like
Yep.
just a much deeper
Understanding.
relationship with the
Yeah.
plant that then you can use it in the ways that
Yeah.
and keeping it the people's medicine, being a herbalist, we're activists, we're trying to also on this show, we're trying to like bring it to you guys so you can start learning about it yourself and you don't have to rely on doctors and all these other people. So herbalism is an activision. I was going to say activation, which it also can be, but it's a bit like we're activists in a way, So I think, yeah. And we're just a few, and I think this in Amanita with the quality and adultery, that you have to make sure that you know what, especially if you're buying it, because often when you're buying it from someone else, you actually don't know if what's in it, what it is when it comes, especially with the microdosing. And I think there are some issues out there of people being given stuff that aren't really the stuff that they've been told it is, or it's got other plant or fungi matter in there. Um, do your own research. A lot of people are doing this microdosing because they're going online and they're seeing someone's doing it and they're not really researching it and they're following trends. This may not be for you. This plant or fungi may not be one that you should be taking. So do your research, test very small amounts, and then see how it is for you. And this is a big one, which I see a misuse of it for work optimization. It's huge in the startup community. And sorry, all you startup people out there, but yeah, I think it's a misuse and it's almost, I'm not a big, I don't like it. We're not going to get too deep into that because it makes me a little bit cranky. But yeah, I think when people are misusing it, it's like, I can't think of the word right now. My perimenopausal brain is exploding with no words. And a little bit with the herb testing as disadvantages is when you're creating your own, be 200% sure what it is. I'm always 200%, that's just full stop. Knowing when it's enough for the body, deep listening, which sometimes we don't know, me and Philip, knowing when it's enough to be taking, and then stopping it. Like that's a big one, I think. Knowing your information again. We are trained professionals, what we're doing. So we really know, like, it's not like we're not doing it from no experience. And if there's any interactions, if you're taking medication, self-diagnosing, if you've got serious illnesses, please, please, please be very careful doing this sort of stuff. We don't want anyone, some herbs and fungi, they interact with your medications and it can do really, really, yeah, just not nice things. So just a few. That was a bit more longer list than I thought, but
No,
yeah,
no.
now,
I think it was a very important one to always also understand, like what we said in the beginning. We need to understand the compounds and the diseases in order what's happening, and to understand the plants, and especially to maybe add another point, like psychiatric diagnosis is any
yeah,
disease like that. If you actually still already having like paranoid issues or schizophrenia, any of that kind of thingies running in your family, like just be careful with these drugs. Like it's quite simple, I would say. Yeah,
yeah.
I think that was round, and we got a whole picture. So
Round
I
like the
would
sun.
say let's play the second
Little dance.
song
No,
of
to play the
today.
next song.
Yes, which is gonna be
I think we got the old African head charge,
African Head Charge with microdosing.
microdosing. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back. So usually we do a plant connection, but today we've written a piece which reflects the way we at Herby at Heart and also Olivia approach this theme. Herbal experiments and microdosing are not techniques, but thresholds, small sacred gestures of listening. A leaf steeped in hot water, a tincture resting beneath the tongue, a whisper of mushroom medicine taken in reverence. Each becomes a subtle turning of the inner compass. Nothing dramatic, nothing forced, just a soft widening. The body begins to hum in a slightly different key. The breath lengthens, the mind loosens its grip, and in that almost imperceptible shift, a doorway opens. Microdosing approach this way and herbal testing is not about escape or enchantment, but attunement. It is the art of the barely there, a practice of refining perception until intuition becomes tangible like moss under fingertips. The herbal experimentation becomes a courtship, tasting, sensing, waiting, listening for how the nervous system responds, how dreams change texture, how creativity stirs. Plants and fungi cease to be substances and become presences. Teachers with slow voices and ancient timing. In this gentle, altered states, the boundary between the self and the living world grows, porous. The imagination ripens. The body remembers its kinship with the root and mycelium, and one begins to feel guided, not by urgency, but by rhythm, by something older than thought. What is small in dose becomes vast in revelation. A quiet unfurling, a return to the steady intelligence of nature, moving through blood, breath, and bone.
Our interview today is Olivia Sayward. She's a Berlin-based quantum healing practitioner, artist, and an eternal student of herbalism and mycology, devoted to helping people reconnect with their intuition, their bodies, and the intelligence of nature. Through one-on-one journey sessions, she guides clients into altered states of mind, helping them to explore the subconscious and grow deeper self-trust and clarity. Her community work weaves together grounded plant knowledge with intuitive insight, offering a gentle yet deep approach to nature communication with the aim of providing a calm and steady way of coming home to earth, finding balance and learning how to communicate with the more than human. Olivia shares her work through one-on-one sessions, group meditations, and workshops, and her Substack, where she explores themes around altered states, creativity, the imagination, and the medicine of plants and fungi. Otherwise, you can find her on a long walk, climbing walls, or going for a boogie with friends, or cooking her way through a cookbook. Welcome, Olivia.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We're very, very happy to have you on a show. And as always, we're jumping right into the questions, and we're curious what you're going to share with us today. And we want to start with your journey into microdosing Amanita muscaria, because we know that's something you did, and it's the mushroom we were talking about in our last episode. And it's quite different from the more commonly discussed psilocybin or acid or different like hallucinogenics. And the question is, what drew you specifically to this red-capped mushrooms? And can you maybe take us back to that first time you decided to work with Amanita? And what were your plans? What did you hope to discover or heal with it?
Hmm. I think one of the first reasons that I wanted to work with it was just to work with a medicine that was more local. So, I mean, I also had my time of like going out into the world and being curious about different plants that were from other countries or that don't grow near us. And in my family, or like my mom had Amanita muscaria symbolism all over. Like she loved them. She had little mushroom figures, like always loved postcards, like would always get excited whenever she saw them. So they were in one way always around, but I don't think I saw one in real life until I was like 20 something. And I think intuitively I got the feeling that it wasn't something to play with. And so I gave it some time and I did a lot of research and watching videos. And then at some point around like winter, kind of shortly before Christmas time, like in that in between time, I was getting like more of the sense like, okay, I think I'm ready. So I'd picked some in the autumn before that and then maybe like made a tincture with it. And then 3 or 4 months later, I was kind of like, okay, I'm I'm ready now. Now is the time. But yeah, it was the wanting to connect with some ancestral aspect. Like I'm half German, but then on my mother's side, which is American, all of that ancestry comes from Scandinavia and the British Isles and also like Germany a bit as well. So yeah, I was just wanting to connect to something more local and like, I guess rediscover that medicine that grows so quick, so nearby. And I'm also just going through my mushroom nerd phase, which I hope will continue for the rest of my life. So it was also just wanting to connect with another mushroom.
Nice. So as we know, anyone who's done microdosing, even the word microdosing means that you take small amounts. So it's not when you are taking it, it's not like a psychedelic experience that we're all like running around in this. Um, when you took it and you felt these first kind of gentle shifts that the microdosing does, did it change anything, like in your creativity or your relationships or how you showed up day to day? And was there any unexpected surprises that happened?
Yeah, it did actually make a lot of changes, like quite subtle changes that I didn't necessarily understand immediately. But I did notice very quickly that it helped with sleep, that I was snoozing less in the morning and I was able to get up with like just more intention or like more vigor. So that was kind of the most immediate thing. And then what I noticed was it helped me hold more than one truth at the same time. So like I could be going through an experience and I could see like the good and the bad at the same time and felt more neutral about it. Um, I was thinking about this yesterday. I was like, oh, it's kind of almost like a Buddhist mushroom because it was
Oh,
like helping, just like ho helping like hold a broader range of feelings at the same time without like over identifying with any of them. and
Like a
and it helped,
calming?
not necessarily calming, but like just a neutrality.
Okay.
So like maybe like identifying with each of those, like each side of the spectrum a little bit less and being able to look at it with neutrality. And yeah, I tend more in the like anxiety direction, like for a lot of future thinking. So I think it helped in regards to that, kind of helping me be more neutral as I, felt into all the possibilities that there are. And and it helped me with focus, but not in like a, I'm thinking and I'm able to focus, but more like I had several avenues or interests that I was still exploring a year ago, where I'm like, oh, maybe I should do this, maybe I should do this, and like kind of keeping myself in the too many options range. And I felt like after a couple months of working with it that I was able to realize what my priorities were.
Hmm.
Mhm.
So it's like, a couple of things just kind of automatically fell to the wayside. And I realized, like, of all these things that I'm like passionate about and thinking about, what I actually want to be doing regularly and what do I actually want to be sharing?
Hmm.
Mm.
Yeah.
Cool.
Like bringing you a bit to the truth, to your truth.
Yeah.
Not the truth, but your truth in that moment.
Yeah. Or, um, I mean, they say, or there's a lot of accounts of people saying that it helps with addictions. And
Mm.
so I think that my addictions might have been more like mental distractions or like, thinking of all the possibilities or um yeah, I don't quite know how to put it, but it helped a lot of that just like fall to the side so that I could make an actual decision of like what I'm gonna do for,
Mhm.
for the next chapter.
Mhm. How
I
long
like
did
that
you
point you
actually?
make.
Sorry, Tash, you
You
go.
go.
Okay, I go. How long did you actually take it and work with the mushroom?
I think it was probably like maybe 3 months, like
Mhm.
kind of on and off. Like I made a tincture and I would just literally take like 3 or 4 drops.
Mhm.
Mm.
Um, and I think that worked for me because I could kind of tune into what it was gonna, um, how strong it was. Like I think if I'd been doing tea or one of the other methods, I might not have been able to dose it quite in the way that my system needs. So
Yeah.
with this, it was literally just like 3, 4 drops. Sometimes twice a day, sometimes once. Sometimes I'd forget for a couple days. But I was trying to kind of be like a little bit consistent for a couple months, but I don't think it was more than like 3
Yeah.
where I was like had it as a focus.
So you do work with herbs and experiment with them, and you do microdose, and we wonder how do you incorporate this herbal experimentation and microdosing in your broader holistic practice, and especially in quantum healing, the plant communication that you also do in your workshops and intentional living. Is there or are there particular rituals, preparations, integration practices that help you? Enter that state of clarity that you just described through us, and yeah, how you keeping how you manage to get in contact with that kind of energy.
Hmm. Yeah, when I first saw that question, I was kind of like, oh gosh, I don't know, because I don't have like very specific rituals that I do, like I'm not like in my ten step ritual thing before I do this kind of work. But then I realized that it was actually the work with the mushrooms and the plants
Mhm.
in a microdosing kind of way that got me even able to do this work.
Mm.
So, like, I think, some modalities like Reiki or shamanism courses opened up that the possibility in my mind of being able to perceive things in a different, less obvious way. And then working with the plants over the last several years has really helped me like hone my intuition and realize how my intuition lands with me. So I don't get like immediate reactions to taking a plant or a mushroom. Like some people will like feel the energy really quickly because they have a different sensitivity. And with me, it comes more in layers. So I might be, having a certain tea for a couple weeks and I don't notice anything. And then it kind of all clicks into place like, a month later. So I think like my energy signature is a little bit more cyclical and more like in the body and just kind of like knowing. And so I think the plants and mushrooms really helped with recognizing those patterns of like, okay, how does the intuition land with me?
Mm.
And then I have been able to like bring that into my work with clients and trust. Like it's just like a like they're teaching you a trust and that listening over time. And the mushrooms too, I've been getting like a lot of um ideas kind of clicking in my head recently that they're really like the nervous system workers. Like
Mm.
we think of them as like, oh yeah, the transformers and the connectors and stuff, but I've been realizing like all of the mushrooms that I've worked with, it's often more like, okay, nervous system repair, and you do have to have like a certain uh groundedness or stability to like work with people and to be able to hold space for them for a couple hours and then to know what you need afterwards to kind of also ground yourself and like come back into balance as well. So I think they've been, yeah, working on like that more broad spectrum
Mm.
teaching of intuition and like how nervous systems work and what safety feels like and what's too much and how to like ground information on a consistent kind of regular basis and know that it takes time and that you're not gonna um yeah, you're not gonna get all the answers immediately.
Mm.
And I would say like 5, 6 years ago, I was a lot more impatient. And that like the plants, the mushrooms have taught me a lot about that patience and just like knowing, okay, I need to wait out this cycle, and also understanding that there are certain plant medicines that really wouldn't work for me because they would open too many doors all at the same time.
Mm.
Mm.
And I think that's also the case for a lot of people that we approach it at first like we want a quick fix and to solve everything immediately. And with any of like the work around healing or, even the quantum things I do, like if I had taken like at this point I've probably had about 20 ones held for me, like so like past life regressions. And if someone had tried to fit all of that information from all of those sessions into like one session, like your body wouldn't be able to even handle that. Like it would probably you'd probably explode. So yeah, they've taught a lot about just like taking it slow and being more patient with yourself and that you're not gonna solve all your issues in 1 month or 1 year.
Yeah,
Mm.
it's really beautiful. It reminds me, I have a teacher here in Berlin who introduced trees to homeopathy. She's like this 80-something-year-old lady where I go to supervision to, and she's really amazing. And she says she's like a tree. Her projects are like based like on a 300 to 600 year prognosis. So she like puts something in the world to know in a few hundred years there will be an impact. And I like that approach. It's like it's like old churches were built, It's not like done even in a century. Yeah. Yeah, I like that. That's
Yeah.
really cool. Yeah.
Beautiful way of looking at it. And you do such, I've been to one, a few of them, such beautiful plant meditations as well, which is another really lovely way of working with plants. You don't necessarily, if you're quite highly sensitive, I think they can be, not everyone can ingest them. I think sometimes that can be a really beautiful and very soft way of getting people to connect with the plants as well through the plant meditations that you do.
Yeah, even
Um,
before you start ask the next question, even I went to a workshop of Olivia's, and we were drawing plants, which was really amazing. And
yeah.
it made me understood something how to work with the plants with patience just by drawing it and getting into the perspective of the plant. Like how does it feel like to be the plant, or like from this perspective? And it also helped me to understood like another emotional part of it. So. Thank you for that, Olivia,
Mm.
for opening up that space. So there's like yeah, is a galore way of like experiencing that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's important to me to show people um that they can connect to every plant that they want and like on that energetic level because I think that it's very or like with all my work like I want people to feel empowered to hear their own inner voice and not be, like we obviously we need all of our herbal books and our references and stuff, but like, you know, um tribal people at one point were probably just having conversations while they were walking in the forest and figuring out how to use different things. And I think everyone can do that. Um, and there shouldn't be any gatekeepers when it comes to that and just door openers. So yeah, every time that I've done one of those meditation groups and someone's like, oh wow, I've felt that for the first time, like what that feels like, then I'm like, yeah, it's a win. It's a win.
Even that little win.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's like all you need. Like I had that first moment with Sarah Cara. She works with cacao. This was like several years ago and she did a training and she did a very, very gentle, grounded meditations that were more about connecting to the plant spirit than like, you know, an ecstatic dance and cacao thing. Like she was just like really focusing on the plant communication and that was a big door opener. And
Mm.
so I think it's yeah, it's hard to pass that subtlety on because everyone's a little impatient and likes to even stack modalities, but um yeah,
I think it's an
that really
important one that gets left behind often, gets forgotten a little bit. Those kind of more
yeah.
subtle ways of working, of trying out plants that you don't know much about, or maybe you know really a lot about them. So I think it's lovely that work you're doing. Um, we wanted to ask you a little bit, with the socials, there's a lot of stuff that doesn't make it on there. When everyone's talking about all this stuff, the testing, the like playing with it, the microdosing, it's all the fun stuff. Um, and it isn't always like that, as we talked a little bit about before. It's not like sunshine and breakthroughs. There's some really challenging moments and some difficult realizations, or even periods of where we have to integrate what we're learning and reshape the understanding of ourselves and the works we do. How do you navigate that within your work? Because you're doing quite soft, very sensitive, very, very, very deep, but also, yeah, this kind of words are losing in my mouth again, but everyone I think knows what I mean. How are you, yeah, approaching that, the more difficult side of it?
Mm. I ha so far I haven't had too many experiences of going too far with a plant or mushroom, except for it's very easy to do with, magic mushrooms, obviously. Um, so with regards to like herb testing, or I guess at the beginning was just taking too many, like you open the herbalism door and you learn a bunch of information, and then you take like 10 different herbs a day because you're like thinking, oh, this is gonna um fix me or something. Like I think at the beginning I was still approaching it all from a point of whether it was like healing and going to healers or working with herbs, it was like I'm gonna take this or do this in order to do this other thing.
Mm.
Um, or kind of thinking like, okay, I'm gonna take all these herbs that are aligned for me and I'm gonna do these healings and then I will be fixed and ready to go. Um, and then over time realize that that's not how it works. And yeah, obviously, there's been a couple times with like other mushrooms where it's gone a little further than I expected. Last week I had a friend had made a very tasty chocolate and I thought that I was gonna have a really nice calm evening and then I ended up breaking a teapot because the effects were coming on when I was still cooking and then had like, those kind of situations. So I mean that's what comes to mind when I think of like, okay, that went a little bit too far is underestimating the effects of yeah, certain mushrooms.
Mm.
And then with regards to like the whole question of like integration, just as a just umbrella style, um, yeah, I think it's also important with that to realize that the integration happens really or like slower than we think. So we'll have like a mind expansive, mind altering experience and then completely underestimate the fact that we're going to be working on that and working through that like subconsciously for months, years afterwards, and that the insights will keep coming. And so yeah, there a certain sometimes you'll notice like clients will have a certain experience and then they're kind of expecting it all to be fixed just immediately then. Um, when actually, maybe they will have like really integrated all of what happened a year later, and maybe they'll have words for it a year later. Like I had one friend who had a session with me and it was really beautiful, but like I could see the doubt on her face afterwards. And then like 2 years later, she was telling me about like, oh yeah, like I still meditate about that part like regularly and like that information is super um is still relevant and like pops up into my head all the time. So I think all of us just need to realize we need a lot more patience for any type of transformation that we do. And of course, there are like very acute situations where you might be able to bring something into balance quickly, but in the vast, vast majority, the integration is going to have to happen slowly. And for me, it's journaling and it's making collages and it's writing and um yeah, I think it's important for it to like, come into the body, like whatever insight or healing it is, and then exit through our hands or our bodies in some way. So like integrating it through movement or integrating through writing or art. But there's like something important of it, coming out of the mental, emotional field and like into physical form that I think is really helpful.
Mm.
Yeah.
I think it's important what you're saying, that it's also very, or what I'm hearing is it's very different for everyone as well, and to not push it, to not push that kind of push the process in a way. And that some of the stuff is really full on that comes up. I do like to stress that a little bit because I really think that on socials and what people see when it comes to this kind of experimentations, that it's all fun and games, and it's not really all the time. And some heavy stuff can come up, and we need the space and the time to allow that to process.
Yeah, it depends a bit on
Yeah.
how much work you have done before, huh? But yeah, it can we can definitely dig out some stuff that we haven't looked at for a while. Yeah.
Yeah.
Olivia,
And wait,
uh,
one other point to make is also even if we've tried one medicine once, it might be different the
Mm.
next time. So I actually picked Amanita muscaria in the US while I was there and dried it, and it had a completely different effect to the
mm,
ones that I picked in Germany. So
Mm.
also to like approach each medicine with a new mind because it's not going to be this, it's not going to have the same energy, even if it's the same mushroom or the same plant or the
Yeah.
same
And
practitioner.
mm.
yeah, maybe you can elaborate a little bit on that because it kind of leads us in the last question of
Mm.
how you um, what helps you to approach these altered states with safety and self-trust? Like, is there any kind of like methods that you can use and give some advice how to use it safely? Plus, maybe you want to give like a general piece of advice that you would love to give or would love to have had when you started your own journey.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, that's a lot of questions. I'm like, um, okay, well, starting at the last one, piece of advice I would have liked to have. Oh gosh. The thing is, like, I don't even know if I would have had the headspace to to receive that advice
Yeah.
at the beginning, you know? I think just to be like more more soft and gentle and give myself more time and expect to need more time than I thought I would. And so I think that that's probably the advice that everyone needs and needs to hear is to listen to the body at all points of time, which isn't easy for most, for a lot of people at the beginning. It's that also takes um that's also a process in itself to even be able to learn to listen to the body. But I think that's also where the mushrooms and plants help. And yeah, taking breaks and taking
Mm.
pauses and also we talk about set and setting with regards to like um psychedelic experiences, so that's also always very important, and I think that also spreads towards like our normal life, like not underestimating how much we need a safe set and setting.
Mm.
Like, I had some big travel times in the last 5 years where I was gone for like 5, 6 months. And during it, I was learning all these new things. I felt so like expanded and inspired and stuff. But then I came home and I realized like, oh wow, my nervous system was actually like fried while I was on that journey just because I didn't have like the routines and the safe environment that I actually needed to kind of flourish and be healthy. So a lot of it is just like creating a safe container for yourself through your own, routines and the right, good, healthy, warm food and um yeah, and I guess not separating the plants and the herbs or any healing experiences from your, not seeing it as too separate from your daily life, which also needs to provide space and rest for any of that work.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I think uh, we have to be done for the interview because we're
You're our
reaching our
time
time
holder.
limit. And thank you so much, Olivia, for sharing all with us. And I love your finishing words. And with that, thank you. If you have, do you have any upcoming workshops or something that you do in Berlin that you want to speak out an invitation?
I'll probably do some plant and mushroom meditations in Berlin, but probably more starting March, April. And I hold one-on-one quantum healing sessions, which are about 4.5 hours for anyone who wants to explore their subconscious in like a safe and grounded way with me. And yeah, that's it for the moment.
Beautiful. We're gonna link everything in the show notes so you can find her Instagram and how to contact Olivia. And if you want to work with her, reach out to her. And we thank you so much for being a part of this episode and sharing your insights and your wisdom. And until the next time.
Yeah, thank you
And
for the
introduce your
invitation.
song. You've got your Olivia's got a lovely song,
Ooh, that's
which
right.
I actually
Yeah.
watched when you sent it to me, and I've just fallen in love with that woman. She's that song you chose is yeah. Would you like to thank you for joining us? It was very meditative, that interview actually. I felt like I could have just sat there and meditated the whole time. So thank you. Yeah, what song have you chosen?
I chose The Barrel from Aldous Huxley. That like popped into my mind immediately. And at first I was like, why? Like, I don't even know what the song is about. And then I realized that was kind of perfect for plants and mushrooms because we don't always understand the subtle messages that we're getting from them. And yeah, if you watch the music video, she does this like, I don't know, the vibe is just very like herbal, mushroomy.
Yeah,
There's like yeah, kind of a subtle depth to her music as well. So,
yeah, it's beautiful.
So we're gonna play The Barrel by Aldous Harding.
And now for our favorite
Recipe
recipe
time.
time. So, of course, today, because we're doing a bit more of a general theme, I thought we would have a recipe just to help you maybe come into the world of plants quickly. Not quickly, but because as we've just talked about, say coming in as a much gentle way, but to maybe it could be the first way that you could try something out. So we're just going to do a quick tea recipe. And basically, you would find the herb, preferably just one herb because you're testing it. So it's best just to use one. Don't do mixes. Otherwise, it's going to confuse your brain and confuse your body. So get the one herb, put a tablespoon or a tea. If you want it strong, you can put a tablespoon or just a teaspoon in a cup, like an actual cup amount, not like a huge jar, just a cup amount, and then put the hot water on it and plate it. Put a plate over it because that keeps the essential oils in there. Leave it for 20 minutes, half an hour if you really want, but 20 minutes. Take it off and then just sit with it first. Smell it. See what the aromas are doing to you. And you can note down what you're doing when you're feeling all these things. And then take a small sip and then you can note it down if you want, or just put it into you. See what parts of the body it's touching. And then you can even try drinking it when it's cold because it will change in what it's doing. So that could be just a really nice, easy way that you could start with working on a deeper level with the herbs.
I also have another recipe, and that's do your own stuff.
You
Okay,
heard stuff like I'll make your own.
okay. And I think with that, yeah, yeah,
Fun.
start doing your own things, get out there, get in contact with the plants. Maybe as an invitation, I would say, wait, do you have anything coming up for your things?
Um, no, I mean I just have my herbal course that's in September. We yeah, in our studio actually we have at the end of March in active we have a an event. You can find that on my Instagram.
Okay.
And then the normal stuff.
Yeah, visited our
Yeah.
praxis. I have a course going on now that's starting this week on Matthias Berner Academy on the archetypes in homeopathy. Join if you want to do that. And visit Praxis at Mommsenstraße, and that's about it, right?
Otherwise, Herby at heart,
By
Herby by
nature.
nature.